All right, let's talk about a scenario you've probably faced. A critical communication system goes down, everything grinds to a halt. And the culprit? It's often this invisible ghost in the machine, radio frequency interference. So the big question is, how do you hunt something you can't even see? Well, today we're going to dive into the first two critical phases of any RFI investigation, actually detecting the signal and then finding its direction.
Now, just so we're all on the same page, this is part 5 of a much larger 15-part professional training tutorial. We're working directly from a really comprehensive technical guide put together by Virtualization Options LLC, and it's built specifically for RF technicians out in the field. So if you're a pro, you are definitely in the right place.
So here's our game plan for today's RFI hunt. We're going to start by profiling our target signal, getting its signature. Then we'll move on to getting a bearing on its direction. After that, we'll use a technique called triangulation to really zero in on an area. And finally, I'll wrap it all up with your next steps. Let's get right into it. You know, every RFI hunt starts with just a whisper of a problem, a single report. Now, your mission at this stage isn't to find the exact broken part. Not yet. It's to take that unknown, disruptive signal and systematically narrow down its location. From a huge general area down to a much more specific zone, like a single building or maybe one section of a big facility.
Before we can even think about hunting it, we have to know what it looks like in the RF spectrum. This whole initial phase is about building a profile of our target. You've got to ask, what's its signature? How does it behave? Is it on all the time or does it come and go? Answering these questions is the first, and I mean the first, crucial step.
And your number one tool for this, your absolute go-to, is the spectrum analyzer. Think of this as your eyes on the RF spectrum. It lets you see the signal, measure its strength, and, most importantly, identify its unique signature. Everything really does start right here.
Okay, so one of the most common signatures you're going to see out there is broadband noise. On your analyzer screen, this just looks like the entire noise floor has been lifted up across a huge range of frequencies. When you see that, your brain should immediately start a checklist. Could it be arcing equipment, noisy motor brushes, or, the usual suspect, a poorly designed switching power supply? You'll also see that different patterns are kind of like different fingerprints. A harmonic series, those signals that pop up at perfect integer multiples of a base frequency, that's a dead giveaway for an oscillator or a digital clock. It just makes sense, right? They create these pure, repeating waveforms, and the physics of it just naturally produces these clean, mathematical multiples. But what about a really clean, comb-like pattern of evenly spaced peaks? That's the classic signature of a switching converter or a PWM system, something you'd find in a variable frequency drive. But what about the signals that aren't on all the time, the ones that pop up and then disappear? A standard spectrum sweep could easily miss them. And this is where the waterfall display becomes absolutely indispensable. By stacking spectrum sweeps over time, it builds a visual history, making those intermittent signals pop right out. In the field, believe me, this is how you catch those sneaky now you see it, now you don't sources.
Okay, so you've profiled your signal. You know its signature. You know what you're looking for. Now the hunt truly begins. The next phase is all about moving from what it is to where it is. We need to find its direction.
And this brings us to that fundamental question, right? How in the world do you find a signal that you can't see, you can't hear, and you can't touch? Well, the answer is with the directional antenna, like the Yagi you see here. And the principle behind it is beautifully simple. You hook it up to your spectrum analyzer, you tune to the frequency of the interference, and then you just slowly rotate it 360 degrees. The direction where that signal strength peaks on your screen, that's the bearing to your source. You're literally listening with your eyes for where the signal is screaming the loudest. Now, the technical term for this bearing, the one you'll see in reports, is the angle of arrival, or AOA for short. That's the specific piece of data you were trying to capture. And getting that first AOA, that's the major clue that turns your investigation from just passive analysis into an active, on-the-ground search. So having a bearing, an angle of arrival, is a huge step forward. But let's be honest, it's not a location. It's just a line pointing off to the horizon. It doesn't tell you where to park the truck. To turn that line into a specific area, we need to add another dimension. We need to triangulate. And the concept is so simple, but so powerful. Your first bearing gives you a line of possibility, but a second bearing taken from a totally different spot gives you a second line. And where do they cross? That intersection, that's your target zone. This all fits into a proven 4-step process for hunting down a source. You start with a coarse location from that very first bearing, then you triangulate to get a much more probable location. After that, you move into what's called a close-in search. Now for this explainer, we're really focusing on these first 3 steps. That last one, precision location, that's a whole other beast for another day.
So here's how it works in practice. You take your first bearing and you plot that line on a map. Then you move to a new position. The best practice is to move roughly perpendicular to that first line, and you take a second bearing. Where those 2 lines cross on your map, that's your search area. And, taking a third bearing from another spot is even better, just to confirm the location and rule out any errors you might get from signal reflections.
Okay, so triangulation has led you to a specific building or a small area. Now you switch tactics for the close-in search. People often call this the hot-cold method, and it's exactly what it sounds like. You just walk through the area, keeping your eyes glued to your spectrum analyzer. As the signal gets stronger, you're getting hotter, you're moving closer. When it gets weaker, you're colder. It is a surprisingly effective way to zero in on those last few meters.
And really, that's the process. You've just gone from a vague report of some kind of interference all the way to a specific area on a map. This systematic approach is what separates a professional RFI hunt from just a frustrating wild goose chase. So let's quickly recap the key steps we covered.
First, you profiled the signal's signature so you knew what your target looked like. Second, you used the directional antenna to get a bearing, that angle of arrival. Third, you took at least one more bearing from a different spot to triangulate the source area. And finally, you used that simple hot-cold method to guide your close-in search, walking right up to the source.
So you followed the whole process, you're standing right in front of the building that houses the interference source. The hunt has led you right here. But now the real question comes up. Which specific machine, which power supply, which cable inside that building is the true culprit? And maybe more importantly, how do you prove it? Well, that's the challenge of precision location, and it's exactly where we're going to pick things up in the next part of this series.